Pleased today to feature my special guest, Leisa Reid, and we'll be discussing the truth about how to get speaking gigs now. Hey everyone, welcome. I'm so pleased that you're here. I know your time is valuable, and so I always want to bring to you inspirational businesswomen who have great messages and information that you can value and actually take and use in your business very quickly. So I'm just so pleased to be presenting this to you today, and I want to thank you for spending the time being here. Now, it would help us out tremendously if you would help spread the word. So what I'm going to do is play the preview trailer. Excuse my voice here. What I'm going to do is play the preview trailer. And if you would go ahead and share this information with people you think might find value in it, we would greatly appreciate it. And then we'll get started with the interview right after the preview. Here we go. All right, I think you can see you are in for a real treat with Leisa. She has so much experience and valuable content to share with us today. I can't wait to get started. But before I do, I have to say today's show is sponsored by hangout-marketing.com, where you can receive a complimentary live stream marketing assessment. Now, why what you might want to take that is because it will really give you an insight into how to prepare to be a great guest and to use live stream effectively in your business. So to take that assessment, all you need to do is text pound success to 775-800-4179. Or if you're out of the US, simply go to hangout-marketing.com. And you might even qualify for a complimentary Shine strategy session with me. So won't you take advantage of that and find out where you stand as far as being a good live stream broadcaster? Great. All right, let's get introducing you to Leisa. Now, Leisa is the founder, I should say, of Get Speaking Gigs Now. She has years and years of experience in this, and she really helps find the right fit for your audience so that you can really connect with them in a powerful way. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about it. But here what we're going to be talking about, as I said, is the truth about how to get speaking gigs and get them now. We'll be discussing the key to unlocking your speaking book ability. We'll talk about how to uncover the treasure sitting in your own backyard. And finally, the number one secret to a steady stream of speaking referrals. So, Leisa, I'm excited to talk to you about this. Come on in and say hi to our audience, won't you?
Oh, hi, Virginia. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here and share all these cool tips for your soon to be or already speaking listeners out there.
Well, so many people want to speak and get the word out. They want to make a bigger impact in the world, but some are very intimidated. We know that. I know initially I was very intimidated to get in front of an audience, whether live or virtual. So I know that your experience and your tips and guidance are going to be wonderful for the people we're talking to, for our audience. And audience, by the way, If you hear a gem tip from Leisa today, we want to hear from you. So go ahead and put pound gem in the comment section and let us know what really inspired you from Leisa today. We would love to hear about that. Also, make sure you put any questions in the comments. We'll make sure to address those as well. All right, so Leisa, what I really love to know from the people I talk to is, how did you get to where you are today? Was there a defining moment in your life that got you to become really an expert in speaking gigs and how to really land them in a way that benefits someone's audience and their business? So go ahead with that.
Gosh, there's so many ways I could answer that question, but there came a point. I will back up. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in speech communication. I even taught at Cal State Fullerton in university here in Orange County, California, when I was 22 years old. So I taught interpersonal communication. So just, it's not a secret or a surprise that I would end up being a speaker, but it wasn't until I was 40 that I became actually a professional speaker. So I'm saying to everyone, it's okay, no matter what age you are. I mean, I've got clients in their 70s and 80s. It does not matter when you want to get started. For me, it was when I was 40, which was a little over 10 years ago. And I was hired by a personal development company to go out and share about mindset and how it worked in order to bring clients into their retreats and their weekend workshops. And I loved it. It was so fun because A, I love speaking. B, I loved the personal development growth. I knew it was going to make a big difference in people's lives. What I didn't know was how the whole quote unquote speaking thing worked. And even though I'd had the degrees, that was like a million years ago. I didn't know how the whole business side of it worked. And so I started a network of people because, like you, I like to collaborate and connect with other people. I thought, gosh, I could probably learn from them. They could learn from me. We'll do an exchange. We'll just, we'll all come together as a village. And so I was doing that. That was back in 2013. It's now called the International Speaker Network. We still meet, it's been over 10 years. We still meet. But what I wasn't expecting were the speakers in the network to ask me for help on how I got so many gigs, because I was getting that first year, I booked 83 speaking engagements in my local area, all in person, right? All and brought in hundreds of clients and generated tens of thousands of dollars for the company. And I just kept doing it. I call it ignorance on fire. Like you were saying, you were a little scared at the beginning. So it's like, I'm just going to go do it. They told me to go speak, so I'm going to go find places. I learned a lot on the way. And one day someone asked me, and this would have been, I don't know, maybe it'd been like the 99th time somebody had asked me this question. He said, can you help me with getting speaking gigs? Or like, tell me how you did it. What are your secrets? And I remember saying, oh, I can't help you. I don't have that time. I don't do that professionally. And I went home and I thought, you have those conversations with yourself sometimes. I'm like, I think that's the last time I'm ever going to say that to anyone. And I literally got on, I was maybe GoDaddy or one of the sites where you buy a website. And I just searched and I really wanted getspeakinggigs.com, but it was taken. So I said, we're going to do getspeakinggigsnow.com. And within 2 weeks, I was up and running with a webinar and got my first client when I was my very first networking meeting. So that was a long-winded answer, but man, it was a lot of things that contributed to where I am today.
Well, I love it. First of all, I love that, you have a background in it, but you hadn't really turned that into a business per se, as far as being an entrepreneur. And that first of all, that you turned someone down because that wasn't in your mindset. You were not thinking that way. And yet there was someone crying out to you and there was a need for it. So it's just beautiful to me how businesses can unfold by discovering, sometimes by accident, where the demand is. And
it was
for
totally
you,
by accident.
So, and you ran with it, which is beautiful. But not only that, you recognized, oh, I shouldn't be turning these people down. I have some real experience in this. I have a background in this, and I have success in this. Anyone who's landed 83 speaking gigs in a year has something to share with others. And you certainly don't want to just hold that information to yourself. So the other part of this is that you recognize that there was a need to share what you learned and someone had asked you for it. So are you all, as viewers, hearing this message right here from the beginning? pay attention to what people are seeking and pay attention to what your expertise is and how maybe you might be holding back or holding out on people, because that could be the key to a very successful entrepreneurial journey. So I love this, Leisa. Thank you for taking that long introduction. I appreciate it so much. All right, so let's move into your first topic, which is the key to unlocking your speaking bookability. I haven't even heard that term before, but I love it. Are you bookable?
I made it up. Because a lot of times people say, well, how do I get started? What do I need to do? And I'm like, gosh, well, there's a lot of things, but it really comes down to getting ready to be ready, getting ready to say yes, getting ready to mentally think, put me in, coach. And I come up with a scenario of like, if somebody called you or emailed you, texted you, whatever, communicated to you that oh my gosh, the speaker we had can't be there. I thought of you. Could you step in? It's tomorrow, let's say, and let's say you're available. Would you be able to go? Yes, put me in, coach. I'm ready to go. And that mentality is so powerful, because when we're not ready, we are not open to all those kind of opportunities. So we're like kind of shutting. We're like, gosh, I hope no one asks me to speak. Oh my gosh, I hope they don't follow up with me. And I know this is true because I hear these confessions all the time in my clients and, prospective clients, when they're looking at the Speakers Training Academy, they're like, well, I got asked to speak, but I haven't haven't responded because I don't want them to, I don't have my talk ready. I don't have my slides. I don't know what I would say. I don't have a call to action. I don't want them to look at my website, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So you're just like pushing the opportunities away. And I will often, if we like, okay, Leisa, but just tell me like at least 3 things that you need to get started. Because of course there's more than 3, but I think the biggest 3 are, number 1, in my opinion, you need to get your talk ready to rock. I do help people with that, like the talk doula thing. Let's give birth to your talk. What I mean by that is, you need to have a title, you need to have a description, you need to have learning points. This is what, Virginia, you asked me for, right?
Yeah.
And like, well, if I want to be a guest on Virginia's podcast, I better have a figure, what's the title of the show going to be? What are we going to talk about, right? How do you get to promote it? So you need to have those things ready. And guess what? You're going to get asked for that stuff over and over and over again. But the cool thing is, once you do it one time, then you're done until you want to create a new talk. So I would say that's the first thing, because if people ask you, as soon as you say, oh, I'm a speaker, or maybe you change it on your LinkedIn profile, or you add, speaker to your title, someone is going to say, oh, cool, what do you speak on? And you want to have an answer. You don't want to like just fail as you just getting started. And you definitely don't want to say, oh, I can speak on anything. No, you can't. I can't speak on anything. No, now I can make conversation and probably about any topic, but like, I'm not an expert on no one's an expert on everything. So you really want to come in guns a-blazing with that, just like, so you have that nice stake in the ground for your topic. The second thing is, you want to have an ideal audience. Like, who is your speaking avatar audience? Are you speaking virtually? Are you speaking nationally? Are you speaking to certain groups, like women's groups, to conferences, corporate, like what does it look like for you? Again, not every speaker or every topic is a fit for every audience. So it's super clear. You want to be super clear on your audience. And then the final one, I would say you want to get ready right away, is what's your invitation to the next step, so that people can, this is especially if you're entrepreneurs, which I think your audience is.
Yes.
What's that next step that you want them to take, or you're going to invite them to take, if they want more juicy nuggets from you, more knowledge from you, more services, like, how do I get into her orbit? Or, gosh, I'm really picking up what she's throwing down. You need to make sure that they have a opportunity to go down that path with you. And I think that's a big missing piece for a lot of, especially heart-centered entrepreneurs. Virginia, do you see that too? Sometimes there's a lot of resistance around, accepting money, or quote unquote selling yourself. It can just bring up a lot of resistance, what I call speaker's kryptonite. And so we just want to clear that right away. We're like,
Yeah.
let's just address it, get comfortable with it in a way that fits for you. And that those three key components are really huge in getting you started.
So I love this because you're really helping them see you've got to you got to be proactive if you really want to get exposed. And, my favorite part of doing the work I do is visibility. You need to be ready to get visible and get the word out about your expertise. But I love that you're talking about clarifying your audience, number one. Who is it that you want to have the greatest impact on? And then you're talking about clarifying what's the next step. I always share with people, you should begin with the end in mind. On whatever project you're doing, whether it's not to be a speaker and get seen across multiple stages, whether it's virtual or live, but it's to think, what is it? How do you want to guide them to move forward with you if you're the right match?
Love
And if you
that.
don't think through these things, you really might be in a place of stumbling. So what you're really talking about here is clarity. Clarity on your topic, clarity on how you can expand on that topic in a way that's going to be impactful for your ideal audience, and how you want to guide them. And once you have created all that, your point is you're ready to go. You are now ready to rock the stage in many, many ways. Although I know you have a lot more tips for us. But this is really foundational, isn't it, Leisa?
It is. And you can get started with those items, right? It's not rocket science, which is one of the things I love about speaking. It's a even playing field. You don't need degrees like I have in to be doing as I stumbling over my words. You do not need degrees in order to be a speaker. I've done it 600 something times, and it's okay. No matter where you are, you just start. But it definitely helps when you have a plan, because you'll feel more confident and your
Yeah.
nervous system can calm down. And I love what you said about the clarity. I don't know if you find this when you're working with people, but there's this power in deciding, like just making a decision. It's like, are we going to go for Italian tonight? Are we going to go for hamburgers? Like, you got to make a decision. Otherwise you will not be eating, right? You have to at one point just go, we're doing this thing. And then you can change it in the future. And that's okay. And adjust and evolve and change. That's always going to happen as an entrepreneur. You're going to be always changing and evolving.
Yeah, and that's part of the excitement of being an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you might as well go get a JLB and let someone else tell you what to do.
Exactly.
But there is that creative side to being an entrepreneur and helping your business evolve and unfold. And part of this, again, is your exposure. And as you say, making decisions. And they don't have to be difficult, because they can always evolve into something else as your business grows and evolves. I love that. That's what makes it, to me, exciting and creative. So let's go into this second topic, and that is about the treasure sitting in your own backyard. I'm sure most of us haven't even thought about this as, oh, I thought I had to go get on some big stage, or I thought I had to get onto a show like this. No, you're saying there's lots of places to start, and your own backyard might be one of them, isn't it?
It is. And it's funny. One of my clients, she had been talking about speaking for quite some time and just still had some mental blocks around it, and, kind of her own perfectionism. And once we started working together, and literally, I call it, we're going to rip off the blinders. Like, you're going to see opportunities everywhere when we start talking and start working together. She came up to me the other day and she said, Leisa, I am booked all the time. I'm getting clients at my speaking engagements. I've done more speaking this year than the past 3 years. And it had only been like 2 or 3 months. So once you start to identify your talk, your audience, your offer, all of a sudden blinders come off. So how do we start looking for treasure in our own backyard? I think of it as, like, I'm imagining, okay, I'm someone who wants to be a speaker and they're just getting started. And what are we going to do? We're going to go to Google and we're going to go speaking engagements. Like, how do I get booked as a speaker? Like, we're going to go to Google, and then we're going to get like super overwhelmed, because there's going to be like rabbit hole after rabbit hole. You're going to get probably some scams. You're probably going to get some applications that suck your time. And I know this because speakers from the trenches, not only them, but I've done it too. It's just one of the realities. And then we get maybe an email that's like, come speak on this big fancy stage. There's going to be so many people and it's only going to cost you this much money and it's going to change your life. And I'm like, I'm kind of like the no, wait, hold on a second before we say yes. Not that those are bad opportunities, but just like anything, we need to make sure we're clear and clean on where we are meant to be and what makes sense for our business. So I like to think of it this way. We're going to go local, national, international. Not because that's the only way to do it, but it just helps your mind start to categorize and chunk it down, because otherwise it's just this big white space and we just don't know what to do with it. So we're going to go like, shh. And when I say local, national, or international, it could be in person or virtual. Those, it can be, you know, a local group could be a virtual local group or an in-person local group. But there are grassroots, like maybe networking groups or chambers or maybe service clubs, things that meet locally in a certain area that are happy to bring in a guest speaker. How do I know? Because they are still around and I've been doing this for 10 years, whether through all the pandemics, the pre, the post, the during, the I speak virtually all the time. I speak to, and I used to speak in person all the time. And many of these of my most favorite clients have come from these local groups. It's actually one of my favorite ways to speak. So it's just a way to start eking out of your comfort zone a little bit. You're like, okay, well, I know my community. Maybe you know somebody in your community who knows everyone. Who's the person in your life who's the connector who could say, oh, you should go talk to Susie over here at this organization. They're always looking for speakers. A lot of times we don't even let our own family or friends know what we're doing. We just kind of assume as entrepreneurs that everyone knows all the empires that we're building. They don't know. They don't know. We're busy. We're head down, busy creating all the stuff. And we just assume everyone knows. So instead of letting, I mean, don't need to tell everybody, but think about who's in your circle and think like, okay, who's really a safe person to tell? Who's someone who could connect me to someone else? Don't think of them as clients. Just think of them as like conduits, right? And you may decide to pick up the phone. You may decide to send an email to a local group. You may get an introduction. You can find all that stuff on Google, right? That can be easy. I like to just go straight to the source and get a personal introduction versus Google, but you know what I'm saying. So then with national, you might think, I'm in a place where I don't mind flying or driving. Maybe you live in a state that's close to another state, or you live in an area that, you know, allows for that kind of travel, or you have an opportunity that it makes sense for you to go to different places around the country. Many associations use speakers every month. That's a very common. And often they will have an association in each state and sometimes multiple chapters in a state. So this right here, if Rihanna, you're talking the pound, I was like, it's so funny. I haven't heard the word pound in a long time. I'm like, oh, that's what we used to call it. It's, you know, #/pound, whatever you want to call it. It's just funny. I'm like, yeah, why did we change it to hashtag? It was always had a name before that. But anyway, this would be like that golden nugget point, because you can take one association, one speaking engagement, and turn it into 50. Like when you find those associations or organizations that are your target market, and you're like, you've tried a couple out, it's worked out really well, you've gotten some clients, you've given a lot of value. Well, then just go to the next state or the next chapter in your state and see what they've got, because now you already have a leg up. You know how it works. You know, you probably can get referred or a testimonial from the first one. So it doesn't have to be that hard, right? It's like, oh, you just duplicate that. Super easy. And I've done that over the years, many, many times. There are other organizations besides associations when it comes to national. I was just using that as an example because a lot of people don't realize that there's associations for literally like everything. I spoke to a balloon association one time. I've spoken to engineering associations, medical associations, all different kinds, financial, insurance, real estate. And then if you go international, this might be more for personal reasons. Maybe you want to have a retreat somewhere, or maybe you have clients or family or friends in another country, or you just have always wanted to go to this other country, you can start to target that country and think, oh, like say you want to go to Paris. Great. Well, you can start looking around what's available in Paris, what local groups, what national groups, what international groups, are available to you in Paris, or so that you can start to plan ahead. You get your trip, you get your exposure, and then there you go. But not all of these, we're not all going to do all of these things. So this is where, as you're listening, it's like, oh, which one fits for me? Which one do maybe a little mix of two of them? Maybe I like all three. It doesn't matter. This is where it's not cookie cutter. You can make your own journey out of it. But I just think people don't even realize where to start looking. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to add, that many years ago I spoke for eWomen Network.
Yeah.
And out of that unfolded a TV interview, a local TV interview. They called me. Well, you just don't know who's listening and how you're impressing them. But just getting the exposure on one can certainly lead to many, in addition to many other opportunities. Now, you're speaking mostly about live. And so let's talk a little bit about the virtual aspect versus live, because not everyone is in, nor do they want to be traveling to get this kind of exposure. What have you found the advantages or disadvantages of both types of speaking mediums
when you
are?
say live, I think you mean in person, right? So
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So prior to the pandemic, most of my talks were in person. I would coach virtually, and I led workshops on Zoom, but when it came to speaking, it was mostly in person. And then when the pandemic hit, just like everybody else, oh my goodness, big pivot time, right? So I remember it was April 2020. People are still figuring out what they're going to do. I had bookings, of course, and I had already was used to Zoom. I reached out to the host. I said, I will host the Zoom meeting. Let's make it virtual. I'm happy to do that. And in that year, in 2020, I booked 50 virtual speaking gigs because I thought, I am not stopping. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to learn and adapt, which is always a great quality as an entrepreneur, right? And just figure it out. And I love speaking virtually now. It is one of my favorite things. I have so much more time. I know you're able to do a lot of different things with your lifestyle as well. And I used to spend so much time in the car, traveling, getting to the event, getting there early, leaving. I'm not saying live in-person events are not great either. They are. And I still do those locally when asked, but I get to meet so many people all around the world by speaking virtually. So if you're listening, you're like, well, how would I be an international speaker or a national speaker? Guess what? All you need to do is virtually speak in another state or another country, and cha-ching, you've just given yourself a little promotion on your bio if you want. It's that easy. You can just have your slide. There's so many things you don't have to worry about when you're doing virtual speaking. It's a little bit of an adjustment, but other than that, I'm a huge fan. And you can absolutely connect with people. You can give tons of value. You can attract amazing clients through that system.
I love both. And I think it's probably important to pursue both. I remember, I started my show 10 years ago. I can't believe it now. And it didn't take long for international speakers to contact me and say, I'd love to be interviewed on your show, because they realize it's not easy to travel, for instance, from New Zealand all the way over to the States to have an interview. And yet,
Absolutely.
Zoom certainly made that, although I started way before Zoom. I started back on like Hangouts on Air, which was exclusively done on the Google platform, which doesn't even exist anymore. So you definitely have to be adapting as technology changes. But yeah, the opportunities are just so vast. On the other hand, to me, nothing beats connecting where you can give someone a real live hug and shake their hands and sit down at a table and have a conversation with them really personally. So both are super, super valuable. And I think we've just done some shifting with what we've gone through in the last 4 years. But I would encourage people to embrace both styles. Let's talk a little bit about, are there advantages to one versus the other financially, business wise, monetarily?
I think both are great. Just like you said, here's how I always think of speaking. It's like a deck of cards. There's a bunch of different games you could play. So you need to figure out which game you're playing and then what strategy would make sense for that game. So with virtual, it's going to be a little bit of a different strategy, and then in person can be a little bit of a different strategy. But when you're giving, like when you have that talk done, when you're like, I've got my stuff dialed in, I know I'm giving a lot of value, and I'm in the right room with the right people, with the right offer or that invitation, both can be really effective. And I have found definitely that I attract clients. I just gave a talk the other day to a national organization, actually, but it was a local chapter of a national organization. So sometimes they can mix. And because they had sent out the announcement, I actually had already retained a client before I even took the stage. How cool is that? Like, just because they promoted you, like you can get that. I have another but on the flip side, I've got an in-person event coming up. That's it's a huge chamber of commerce in my area. And they put a thing out and already have had people reach out to me on LinkedIn and have calls booked prior to even stepping on the stage. So, gosh, if you have your stuff ready, back to the first point, if you're ready to say yes, it just makes it easier for people to work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I interviewed someone back, Connie, you probably know her, back in late last year. And she talked about speaking using meetups as a great opportunity. Have you had much experience with meetups? Because she's done it both virtually and in person and virtually.
Yeah. So the International Speaker Network used to be called the OC Speakers Network, and we met in person for 7 years, until the pandemic. And I started using Meetup because that was the only option at the time. And now I still have my Meetup groups. We just meet virtually because we have thousands of people in those groups. So it's a great billboard to, hey, invite, this is what we still have going on. It's still another form. I guess it's sort of like social media. It's kind of, I don't know, it's its own sort of thing. Meetup's its own sort of thing. I don't know if it's technically social media, but it's akin to that, right? Another marketing way, like what you do. It's like, it's another way to be visible. It's another way to reach different people. Meetup will work for you, which is nice. Like, people join and I don't know where they came from. That's awesome. If you wake up and you're like, wow, somebody just joined my Meetup group or Facebook group or my opt-in freebie thing, right? That's nice stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're giving so many wonderful ideas. And again, I want to hear from you all. Please just put your gems in the comment section. We want to hear from you. But we've gotten lots of valuable information from Leisa already, but we got one more. A number one secret Leisa has for us to get a steady stream of speaking referrals. Let's hear it, Leisa.
Oh my gosh. So this was another one that came totally organically. And I love when that happens, because sometimes that's how the best concepts and lessons in life happen. It's just like, wow, that really was powerful. So I had met a gal many years ago. This is about 10 years ago, through my network. And we started referring each other speaking engagements or opportunities, things like that. And we still do this, even though she's moved out of state. Lived through a pandemic. We've done all the things. And we have referred each other hundreds of speaking engagements. And I don't remember how many years it took that we were meeting that I finally came across this concept. And to me, it was so powerful. It's so simple. And anyone listening can do this. And it's what I call the speaker soulmate system. And think of like a referral partner, but this is for speaking. And sometimes we don't realize what's right in front of us, right? Like, oh man, we try to make it so complicated. And how do you find a speaker soulmate? Well, and what is a speaker soulmate? A speaker soulmate is somebody who's like your inner circle, right? This is someone you really trust. So I'll give you the three components. They speak a similar frequency as you, right? You want to make it sort of even, ish. Number two, like, and trust them. It doesn't mean you need to know them for a really long time, but like, maybe you met them at a virtual meeting and you're like, I really like the vibe of that person. I want to talk to them a little bit more. And let's see if we're a fit to start this relationship. It's like dating, right? And then 3, they speak to a similar audience as you, but they're not your competition. That's what really makes the gasoline on the fire go, because all of a sudden, every talk that you've given or podcast that you've been on or show that you've been on could feasibly be an opportunity for your partner, and vice versa. So while you're out doing your own things, getting referrals from other speaking engagements that you do and things like that, you have this other person who's just totally in your corner, promoting you, introducing you to people. And all of a sudden, you've exponentially increased your speaking engagements without having to Google search, cold call, cold email. And a lot of times people say, well, how do I find that person? Like, and I've even have a client right now who that's not her strong suit. She's learning how to trust people. She's learning how to connect with people and practicing. I'm so proud of her. And she told me the other day, she goes, Leisa, I think I found a potential speaker soulmate. I've got a meeting with this person. So it's really cool. I don't expect that it comes naturally to everyone. It really comes naturally to me. I don't know about you, for you, Virginia, but man, once you find that, you got to think, if you just have 2 or 3, you're going to have speaking engagements and leads coming in all the time consistently, instead of going, oh, geez, I don't have anything happening right now. Like my schedule's wide open. Well, let me tell you, after 10 years, my schedule's not wide open. It is booked up. I've always have speaking engagements, always, all year long. And that's so cool, because then I'm always meeting new people. Same with my clients. Like, you want to have that consistent flow. So that, like I say, if you don't know where to find them, go to the International Speaker Network, try to find them there. And I know you've got some resources for people to check out in the show notes and stuff. So it's very easy to do this.
Well, the one of the things I would sort of interject here that I might be a little bit, I might differ in opinion, is about the competition. I just never felt that anyone that does something similar to me is competition. I feel, a matter of fact, that there's a lot of collaborative opportunities that we might have. And I've just found that when I approach things that way, that we really can come up with some creative ideas to support each other.
I totally agree with you.
Even though we might be doing the same thing, we are our own distinct individual. We're unique in our delivery. And so I've never felt of it as being competitive at all. It's just like, how can we support each other? How can we, as female entrepreneurs, help uplift and inspire one another? And that, to me, just creates greater opportunities. But you are so right about the referral part of it, because sometimes it's harder for you to go out there and blow your own horn, right? Than it is to have somebody else do it. Yeah. So,
and the reason I do agree with you, but I know that when someone's getting started, it's easier to get a yes when it's a different topic or a different approach, because they might say, well, we just had someone who talked about that thing, so we want to have someone. So it just makes it easier. And these are not hard and fast rules. These are just sort of like, guidelines to look out for and ways to make it an easy slip and slide, like type of approach.
I love that. slip and slide right onto the stage. I have a wonderful.
I love it. I literally just referred another speaker coach to a prospective client yesterday, because she's telling me her thing. And I'm like, oh, I know who you need to talk to. So sometimes people think, well, speaker trainers or people in the speaking industry are all the same. No, not at all. We all have different lanes that we are part of. And some of the best opportunities have come from people who seemingly do the same thing as me, even though we don't do exactly the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been great information. Now, I know you have something special for everybody. You guys know you always have to stay to the end to get the link to the gift. And Leisa has got something very special for you. Let me first bring it up so that we can make sure that you get the address for it. So you can go and get Leisa's gift at shinetips.com/Leisa gift. And let's make sure, if you're listening, that you spell it correctly. Leisa is Leisa gift. Shinetips.com/Leisa gift. Leisa, tell them why they need to run on over there and grab this opportunity.
Yeah, you get 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs. And these are tips I still use to this day. and they're going to help you just get started, because why not? You have gifts, you have expertise that people need to hear. Why not add to your business and attract your ideal clients through speaking? It's a very fulfilling way. And for those of you who are thinking, oh man, I'm a little scared about that, that's okay. Here's a tip that I use. If you're more of an introverted type of person, think of yourself as a teacher. Often I call myself a teacher disguised as a speaker. I'm not introverted, but I don't need to be the center of attention, all the time. I don't want to just to speak. I want to speak so that I can help transform people's lives, solve their problems, make an impact. And that's probably what you want too. So yeah, you get 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs now and start making that impact right away.
Well, thank you for sharing that with everyone. And I know you're going to want to all pick that up, because Leisa really walks her talk, right? She's just showing you and demonstrating that there are ways to grow your business and do it quickly with speaking as an opportunity. I think the last question I'm going to run by you, Leisa, is if someone were to start to really embrace speaking and get beyond their intimidation and fear factor and really get clarity on what they're going to be speaking about, what would you say the potential for increased revenue might be for them?
It's huge.
Let's talk about over a year's time.
Yeah. Like if you have, I usually do this thing called a speaker monetization formula. And it's basically like you take your average ticket client. Let's say if you're a coach and you have a $5,000 coaching package, let's just say, for example, and you speak 2 times a month. So that's 24 times a year. Could be virtual, could be in person, could be national, international, local. Doesn't matter. And then let's say you generate 1 client from each of those speaking engagements. That's over $100,000. That's $120,000. So it doesn't mean that you have to have fancy schmancy systems. It doesn't mean that you have to do a whole ton of changing, but packaging your expertise in a way that's consumable for people, and you get to connect with them and they get to feel who you are, can be very profitable.
And that's really an incentive for you to think through, I'm afraid to speak, because it is the number one fear that people have, is the fear of speaking, into looking past that into the potential that it provides for you. And so now you have Leisa as a potential contact, somebody who can help guide you down that path and make it a lot easier and faster for you. So Leisa, I am so pleased to have had you here today to share all that you know. And I know there's so much more, as you said, you only gave 3 ways to get ready to be a speaker. And I know there's lots more waiting for people. Thank you so much for being here. Do you have any final last words we can wrap this all up with?
Well, thanks, Virginia, for allowing me to be on your show. I really appreciate it. And final words, I would just say, do what makes your heart sing and step out of the way. Let your message be heard. Don't let the fear stop you from helping other people.
That's wonderful. Thank you again, Leisa. And thank you all of you for being here today. And if you found this information valuable, go ahead and get the word out so that other people can benefit as well. Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll see you on the next Inspirational Business Women Show. Bye-bye now.
Thanks so much for watching today. Do you know someone who would be a great guest for our show? Or would you like to be a guest on the Inspirational Business Women Show? Let's shine the spotlight on your expertise. We'll share your story while offering tips, strategies, and advice to our viewers. Expert interviews are a great way to build your reputation as the go-to expert. Go to shinetips.com/IBWS to apply today. Women are waiting for your message, and I can't wait to interview you.